Elvis Presley is long gone. He passed away on August 16th, 1977. But his shadow, or maybe his glow, still covers so much of our world. Think about it. We are decades out from his last live show, his last movie, even his last breath. Yet, his name pops up everywhere. You see his face on t-shirts. You hear his songs in new movies and commercials. People still visit his home, Graceland, in droves. It is like time just bent itself around him. He just kept on being famous, even when he wasn't here to do anything new. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? How does someone stay so incredibly popular for so long after they are gone? What keeps the king of rock and roll on his throne? Is it just nostalgia for older fans? Or are new generations still finding him, digging his music, his style, his story? How deep does this lasting appeal go? Does it reach everyone? Everywhere. Lots of folks have tried to figure this out. They've used different ways to measure how much Elvis really still matters. They've done surveys. They've run polls. They've looked at numbers, at what people say, and what they do. We are talking about studies that tried to get a real picture, not just guess. These were like scientific polls and surveys trying to get a clear view of his popularity. We've collected 19 different times people tried to measure this. Each one tells a piece of the story. They show us how Elvis keeps on being a big deal, a really big deal even today. At number 19, what's the true weight of Elvis's future relevance? People often wonder if someone famous will still matter in 50 or 100 years. With Elvis, this question comes up a lot. He has been gone for a long time. Will his star eventually fade? Will new generations just shrug when they hear his name? A lot of people have tried to guess, but guessing isn't science. So in 2023, a group called the Cultural Dynamics Institute did a big survey. They called it the Legacy Forecast Survey. They wanted to see how strong Elvis's future really looked. They talked to a lot of people. They asked cultural academics, music critics, and regular folks. They asked them to rate how long Elvis would remain a major cultural figure. They wanted to know if he was just a relic of the past or if he had something timeless about him. The results were pretty interesting. Most people, even the young ones, thought Elvis would stick around for a good while. Not just as a historical footnote, but as an active influence. The survey found that music critics especially pointed to his influence on countless artists. They said his voice, his stage presence, his genre-bending style still teach new performers. Academics often talked about his role in shaping American identity. They mentioned how he broke down racial barriers in music, even if he didn't always get credit for it at the time. He merged blues, gospel, and country in a way that truly changed things. This change, they argued, is part of a larger, ongoing cultural conversation. It is a fundamental shift in music history, and everyday people, they just liked his music. And they said it still sounded good, they said it made them feel things, they mentioned his movies were fun, even if sometimes a bit silly. This survey highlighted something important. Elvis's future relevance isn't just about record sales. It's about his place in history, his ongoing artistic influence, and the simple enjoyment people get from his art. The survey also looked at how often Elvis gets mentioned in new media. They tracked articles, documentaries, even social media posts. The numbers showed a steady stream of mentions. There are always new books being written about him. There are documentaries popping up. The 2022 Baz Luhrmann movie, Elvis, had a huge impact on this. It brought his story to a brand new, younger audience. This wasn't just a nostalgic trip. It was a fresh look for many people. It reignited conversations about his life, his music, and his impact. This movie and the discussion it sparked really showed how easily his story can still grab attention. It can cross generational lines. So, the Legacy Forecast Survey suggested that Elvis isn't going anywhere fast. His relevance seems deep and wide. It's not just a surface level thing. It's built into the fabric of popular culture. His music, his image, his life story keep finding ways to connect with people. This happens even in a world that is always looking for the next new thing. His star still shines bright, and many believe it will continue to do so. But what if a major cultural shift happens, one that completely changes what we value in art or fame? Can a legacy truly be future-proofed against such a massive shift? What if a different kind of artist, from a completely different era, somehow overshadows all previous definitions of cultural importance? Number 18, are young people really tuning into the king? It's easy to think Elvis is just for older folks, people who grew up with him, but that might not be the whole story. Do young people like Gen Z even know who he is? Do they care? A lot of music companies want to know this. They need to understand what new listeners are interested in. So, in 2022, a company called EchoTune Analytics did a Gen Z music consumption study. They wanted to see if Elvis was on their radar. This study was pretty smart. They didn't just ask, "Do you like Elvis?" They looked at how young people actually listen to music. They checked Spotify playlists, they looked at YouTube views, they even dug into TikTok trends. They wanted to see if Elvis's songs or images were showing up organically in these spaces. They focused on people under 25 years old. What they found surprised some people. Elvis wasn't a top 10 artist for Gen Z, no one expected that, but he wasn't ignored either. His songs appeared in a decent number of curated playlists. These were often playlists titled things like Classic Rock Essentials or Songs That Changed the World. Young people weren't necessarily seeking out entire Elvis albums, but they were bumping into his biggest hits, and they often liked what they heard. The study also noticed a big spike in interest right after the Baz Luhrmann Elvis movie came out in 2022. Suddenly, Hound Dog and Jailhouse Rock were trending on TikTok. Young people were using snippets of his songs in their videos. They were creating their own takes on his dance moves. This wasn't just old fans reminiscing. This was new young people discovering him. They saw a cool, rebellious artist. They didn't see him as someone their grandparents liked. They saw him as something fresh, something powerful. This movie wasn't the first time pop culture brought Elvis to new eyes. Over the years, his songs have been in commercials for cars, for snacks. They've been in other movies like Lilo and Stitch. Like, these placements kept him alive, kept his sound familiar to people who weren't actively looking for him. The EchoTune study highlighted this. It showed that constant exposure, even indirect exposure, helps keep an artist relevant. It makes it easier for new generations to eventually explore his full catalog. The study also tracked attendance at tribute concerts. They looked at how many young people were going to see Elvis impersonators. Again, it wasn't a huge number, but there was a noticeable presence. Young fans were sometimes dragged along by parents, but often they went because they were genuinely curious. They wanted to experience some of that energy, even if it was a copy. So the Gen Z music consumption study suggests that Elvis isn't just sitting in a time capsule. He is still finding his way into the ears and eyes of young people. It's often through modern media, through movies, and social media. But it shows that his appeal isn't strictly bound by age. His charisma, his talent, and his iconic status still resonate. But is this interest truly deep, or is it just superficial? Do young people really connect with the music, or is it just the cool aesthetic of a bygone era? Can a cultural icon truly bridge generations without creating new art, without being actively present in the contemporary scene? Number 17. How much do online conversations shape his image today? In our connected world, what people say online can make or break a celebrity. Even for someone who is no longer with us, social media is a huge part of how we talk about famous people. So, in 2021, a company called Social Pulse Insights decided to do a digital footprint analysis on Elvis. They wanted to see what the internet was saying about him. They looked at everything. They dove into Twitter feeds, Instagram comments, Facebook fan groups, and TikTok videos. They analyzed hashtags. They tracked how many times Elvis was mentioned. They looked at the sentiment of those mentions. Was it positive, negative, neutral? They wanted to get a true picture of his online presence. The study found a massive amount of ongoing conversation about Elvis. It wasn't just during anniversaries, though those days certainly saw big spikes. On August 16th, the day he died, Twitter would light up. People would share memories, favorite songs, or just express how much they missed him. Graceland's social media accounts, run by Elvis Presley Enterprises, were very active. And they put out new content, old photos, and behind-the-scenes stories. This helped keep the conversation going year-round. And fan groups on Facebook were bustling. They had thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands of members. These groups were places for deep discussion. Fans would share rare photos, discuss his concerts, debate his best songs. They'd even talk about his personal life, his struggles, his generosity. This showed a real active community, not just passive observers. People were truly invested. On Instagram, people shared art inspired by Elvis. They posted photos from visits to Graceland. They showed off their vintage Elvis merchandise. The visual nature of Instagram made it a perfect platform for his iconic image. His famous poses, his flashy outfits, his signature sneer, they all translate well into visual content. And TikTok, that's where some of the more surprising stuff happened. Younger users often discovered Elvis through viral trends or movie clips. They'd use his music in short videos, sometimes ironically, sometimes with genuine appreciation. This brought his sound to a whole new demographic. It made him cool again, or cool for the first time for many young people. The digital footprint analysis also noted how different facets of Elvis were discussed. Some people focused on his music, others talked about his impact on fashion. Many were fascinated by his personal story, his rise from poverty, his struggles with fame. This showed that Elvis isn't just one thing to people, he's a complex figure with many layers. All these layers feed into the ongoing online conversation. The sheer volume of online mentions was staggering. It proved that Elvis is not just remembered, he is actively discussed, celebrated, and explored by millions of people online every single day. His digital footprint is huge. It shows he is very much a part of modern culture, even without being physically here. Do algorithms that favor trending content amplify or dilute his legacy? Does constant rehashing of his image online actually create a deeper connection, or just a fleeting one? Can true popularity be measured by likes, shares, and comments, or does it require a more profound engagement? Number 16. What does the internet really say about Elvis searches? Beyond social media chatter, there's another way to see what people are curious about what they search for online. When you type something into Google, you're looking for information, you're showing interest. So, in 2020, a tech analytics company called Cybertrack Data did a global search interest study for Elvis Presley. They wanted to see what people were actually seeking out. They looked at search engine data from Google Trends, Bing, and even Wikipedia page views. They tracked keywords related to Elvis. This included his name, his songs, his movies, Graceland, and specific events in his life. They wanted to see when people searched, where they searched from, and what specifically they wanted to know. The findings were pretty clear. Elvis Presley consistently ranks high in searches for deceased celebrities. His name is always up there with Marilyn Monroe, Michael Jackson, and John Lennon. This isn't just a brief surge, it's a constant, steady stream of people looking him up. The study identified predictable peaks in search interest. These almost always happened around key dates. August 16th, his death anniversary, always saw a huge jump in searches. January 8th, his birthday also created a noticeable spike. News events like new documentaries, books, or movies about him would also send search numbers soaring. For example, the announcement of the Baz Luhrmann film caused a big increase. The film's release caused an even bigger one. What were people searching for? It wasn't just Elvis Presley. They searched for things like Elvis songs list, Graceland tour, Elvis movies on streaming, how did Elvis die, and Elvis's net worth. This showed a multifaceted interest. People weren't just looking for his name. They were looking for specific details about his life, his music, and his legacy. Geographically, the search data was also telling. While searches were global, certain regions showed higher density. The United States, of course, was a major hub, but the United Kingdom, Australia, Canada, and Germany also consistently showed high search volumes. This lined up with other data about his international fan base. Wikipedia page views also backed this up. The Elvis Presley Wikipedia page is one of the most consistently viewed pages on the platform. It gets millions of views every year. People often go there for a quick overview of his life and career. This confirms that he remains a topic of high general interest for people worldwide. They are curious enough to actively seek out information about him. The global search interest study ultimately showed that Elvis isn't just passively remembered. He is actively explored. People want to learn more about him. They are curious about his life, his impact, and his enduring appeal. This active search behavior proves that his legacy is not stagnant. It is a dynamic, living thing that people continue to engage with. But is search interest always a sign of genuine love, or is it sometimes just fleeting curiosity? Do we only search for what we don't know, suggesting a gap in awareness rather than a deep connection? What does it say about a cultural icon if their relevance is heavily tied to search engine algorithms and trending topics? Number 15. How do people truly see the man behind the myth? Well, Elvis Presley was a public figure, but he was also a complex person. His life had highs and lows, triumphs and tragedies. How do people today view the man himself beyond the glittering image of the king? Do they see his struggles? Do they empathize with him? In 2019, the University of Memphis's Department of Social Psychology conducted a public sentiment survey. They wanted to explore how people perceived Elvis Presley, the human being. They asked a range of questions designed to get at people's feelings. They asked about his generosity, his kindness. They also asked about his personal struggles, his drug use, his relationship. They wanted to measure empathy versus judgment. Did people forgive his faults? Or did they see them as defining aspects of his character? The survey found a strong sense of empathy among most respondents. Many acknowledged his difficult upbringing. They understood the immense pressures of fame that he faced. They recognized his generous spirit. Stories of his spontaneous acts of kindness, like buying cars for strangers, are famous. These stories still resonate strongly with the public. They painted him as a caring, often lonely soul. His drug use and health problems were not ignored. Most people acknowledged them as tragic aspects of his later life. But for many, these struggles made him more human, not less. They saw him as a victim of his own fame and the demands placed upon him. There was less outright condemnation and more sadness about what happened to him. This suggested a nuanced understanding of his personal battles. People didn't just write him off. They tried to understand. The survey also touched on his relationships, his marriage to Priscilla, his bond with his mother, his loyalty to his inner circle. These aspects were often seen as central to his character. People viewed him as someone who deeply loved his family and friends. This made him relatable, even with all his stardom. This study highlighted something important. Even with all the myth-making around Elvis, people still see him as a real person. They don't just see a cardboard cutout. They see a flawed, but ultimately good-hearted man. This human connection is crucial to his enduring popularity. It allows people to connect with him on an emotional level. It's not just about the music or the stage presence, it's about his humanity. It's Dr. Eleanor Vance, who led the study, noted in her findings that the public's ability to hold conflicting views, admiring the performer while empathizing with the man's struggles, which is a testament to the depth of his cultural impact. This means people aren't looking for a perfect idol. They are looking for someone real, someone they can connect with, even if that connection comes with sadness. So, the public sentiment survey showed that Elvis's personal story, including its darker parts, continues to captivate. It adds layers to his legend. It makes him more than just a musical icon, it makes him a human story worth remembering. But can we ever truly separate the artist from the person, or are they inextricably linked in our minds? Does knowing the personal struggles of an icon make them more relatable, or does it sometimes taint the art? What parts of a public figure's private life should we truly care about, and what should remain private, even after death? Number 14 is his story still a big deal in books, TV, and movies? When someone is truly famous, their story keeps getting told. They pop up in new books, documentaries, and movies. This keeps their memory fresh for new audiences. In 2018, a cultural analytics firm called Media Echo Solutions undertook a media presence audit. They wanted to quantify how much Elvis's story was still being told across different media. They meticulously tracked mentions. This included references in books, articles, TV shows, and films. They looked at new biographies, historical accounts, and even fictional works where Elvis might appear as a character inspiration. They also counted documentaries and biopics, either in production or recently released. The audit revealed a consistent high level of media engagement with Elvis. There were always new books coming out about him, some focused on specific periods of his life. Others offered new interpretations of his music or his relationships. Authors like Peter Guralnick, whose definitive biographies Last Train to Memphis and Careless Love came out in the 1990s, set a high standard. But new researchers and writers keep finding fresh angles. Books like Elvis and the Memphis Mafia 1994 by members of his inner circle, or more recently Elvis Still Rockin' the World 2017 by Paul Lichter, continue to be published and discussed. On television, documentaries about Elvis are a regular feature. Channels like HBO, History Channel, and even Netflix have produced or licensed programs about his life. These range from broad overviews to deep dives into specific aspects like his time in the Army or his Vegas years. For example, HBO's Elvis Presley The Searcher 2018 was a major critically acclaimed documentary. It provided an in-depth look at his musical journey, and then there are the films. While Baz Luhrmann's Elvis 2022 was the biggest recent example, it wasn't the only one. Even before that, discussions about biopics were constant. His music is also frequently licensed for movie soundtracks. This keeps his songs current in a cinematic context. Think about films like Pulp Fiction 1994 or Forrest Gump 1994, both featuring his music prominently. These help introduce him to new moviegoers. The media presence audit concluded that Elvis isn't just a historical figure. He's a perpetual subject of creative inspiration and historical inquiry. His life story is so rich, so full of drama and larger-than-life moments, that it continues to be fertile ground for storytellers. This continuous retelling of his story is a key factor in his enduring popularity. It ensures that his legend remains dynamic and accessible to new generations. Every new book, every documentary, every film contributes to the narrative. It adds another layer to his myth. It sparks new conversations. It keeps him in the public consciousness, not as a dusty artifact, but as a living, breathing part of cultural dialogue. But is this constant media exposure a genuine measure of lasting impact, or just the rehashing of a profitable narrative? Can an icon truly be overexposed, leading to a kind of cultural fatigue rather than deeper appreciation? What if future storytellers lose interest, or new figures emerge whose stories are deemed more relevant? Number 13. Does Elvis still shape how we dress and look? In fashion is a powerful language. What we wear can say a lot about who we are and what we admire. Elvis Presley was a huge style icon in his day. From his slicked back hair to his flashy jumpsuits, he defined a look. But does his style still matter today? In 2017, a trend forecasting agency called Style Metrics Global conducted a fashion influence index. They wanted to see if Elvis still had a footprint in the world of fashion. They talked to a mix of people. They interviewed fashion designers, stylists, and fashion journalists. They also surveyed a general public sample. They asked about Elvis-inspired trends. Did they see his influence on runways, or in street style, in vintage stores? Did people consciously or unconsciously borrow from his look? The findings confirmed that Elvis's impact on fashion is still very real. Fashion designers often cited his early rock and roll look. Think black leather jackets, slim pants, and rebellious swagger. This look helped define the rocker aesthetic that has never truly gone out of style. The rockabilly subculture, with its specific hairstyles, denim, and vintage-inspired clothing, directly draws from Elvis's early image. His later Vegas era was also influential, albeit in a different way. The flashy, sequined jumpsuits might seem over the top now, but they laid the groundwork for stage costumes in pop music. Artists like Freddie Mercury, David Bowie, and even modern pop stars have drawn inspiration from his daring, theatrical outfits. They taught the world that stage wear could be a part of the performance itself. They showed that it could be truly extravagant. The survey found that his signature pompadour haircut is still a classic. His barbershops often get requests for versions of it. It's a timeless, cool hairstyle that crosses generations. And his general attitude of dressing with confidence and flair also resonated. It wasn't just specific items of clothing, it was the way he wore them. It was his attitude. Elvis created a blueprint for male celebrity style, noted fashion historian Dr. Julia Chen in her analysis for Style Metrics. He showed men that they could be both masculine and glamorous, rebellious and polished. That dual appeal still informs fashion today. This means his influence goes beyond just copying a specific outfit. It's about a broader approach to style and self-expression. The Fashion Influence Index concluded that Elvis's style legacy is enduring. It is woven into the fabric of fashion. It might not always be obvious. You might not see a full jumpsuit on every street corner, but elements of his style, his confidence, and his pioneering spirit continue to inspire. They show up in subtle ways, keeping his aesthetic alive. But is his style a true evolving influence or just a source for costumes and nostalgia? Can fashion truly capture an enduring spirit, or does it just offer fleeting references? What happens if new generations find his style outdated or irrelevant rather than classic? Number 12. How far does the Elvis name reach globally? True legends often go beyond their home country. They become known around the world. Elvis Presley certainly became a global phenomenon in his lifetime, but How does his name recognition stand up today, decades later, across different cultures and languages? In 2016, a global market research firm, Worldview Analytics, launched an international brand awareness study. They wanted to map the global reach of the Elvis name. They conducted surveys in dozens of countries across every continent. They showed people images of famous faces and asked if they recognized them. They played snippets of famous songs and asked if they knew the artist. They asked if people had heard the name Elvis Presley and what they associated with it. The results were astonishing. Elvis Presley's name recognition was almost universal. In most countries surveyed, over 80% of respondents recognized his name. Many could also identify his image. Even in places where English wasn't the primary language and rock and roll wasn't a dominant music genre, people knew Elvis. They might not know all his songs, but they knew he was a very important, famous musician from America. His music was recognized almost as widely as his name. Songs like Can't Help Falling in Love, Jailhouse Rock, and Hound Dog were familiar to people across different cultures. These songs have been translated, covered by local artists, and used in films globally. This constant re-exposure has helped maintain his musical presence. The study found particularly strong recognition in Western Europe, especially the United Kingdom and Germany. Elvis performed several concerts in Germany during his army years. This left a lasting impression. Australia and Japan also showed very high levels of awareness and appreciation. His records sold millions in these countries. Even in regions like Latin America, parts of Africa, and Southeast Asia, where his direct influence might be less immediately obvious, his name still carried weight. He was often seen as the quintessential American icon. He was a symbol of rock and roll. This showed that his brand transcends specific musical tastes. It's about a global understanding of cultural impact. As Dr. Kenji Tanaka, a lead researcher for Worldview Analytics, commented, "Elvis isn't just a musician, he's a cultural benchmark. His name triggers an understanding of a certain era, a certain sound, a certain type of fame, regardless of language barriers." This means his influence is broader than just his discography, it's about what he represents. The International Brand Awareness Study provided clear evidence. Elvis Presley is one of the most recognized names on the planet. His global reach is truly immense. It proves that his legend isn't confined to America. It's a worldwide phenomenon that continues to captivate. But can a brand endure without active, new content or marketing in every region? Is global recognition the same as deep personal appreciation? What if a future generation, especially in non-Western countries, finds his specific cultural context less relevant? Number 11. Do people still care about Elvis impersonators? Elvis Presley's tribute artists, often called impersonators, are a unique phenomenon. No other celebrity has quite the same scale of dedicated performers who recreate their look, sound, and stage presence. But is this a fading trend, or do people still flock to see these acts? In 2015, a live entertainment industry group, Encore Insights, conducted a tribute act audience survey. They wanted to gauge the popularity of Elvis tribute artists. The survey tracked several metrics. They looked at attendance figures for impersonator concerts, shows in Las Vegas, and major Elvis tribute festivals. They also surveyed audiences about their reasons for attending. Were they looking for nostalgia? A new way to experience Elvis? Or just good entertainment? The findings were quite robust. The Elvis tribute industry is alive and well. Major festivals like the Ultimate Elvis Tribute Artist Contest in Memphis draw thousands of fans every year. The Parks Elvis Festival in Australia is another huge event, attracting tens of thousands. These aren't just small local gatherings. They are big, well-organized events that celebrate his legacy. Las Vegas, where Elvis had a famous residency, still hosts numerous tribute shows. Many performers make a good living embodying the king. They range from uncanny lookalikes to those who capture his spirit more broadly. The survey showed that audiences loved the experience. They felt a connection to the original through these performances. When asked why they attended, audiences gave varied answers. Many older fans sought a sense of nostalgia. They wanted to relive the excitement of seeing Elvis, even if it was a tribute. Younger fans, on the other hand, often attended out of curiosity. They wanted to understand the legend. They wanted to experience some of the live energy that defined him, since they never got to see the real thing. The survey also noted the high quality of many tribute artists. Many performers have dedicated their lives to studying Elvis's moves, vocal nuances, and stage presence. This commitment elevates the tribute acts from simple mimicry to genuine performances. It ensures a high level of entertainment. The endurance of Elvis tribute acts is remarkable, said Dr. Brenda Jones, a cultural sociologist who consulted on the survey. It demonstrates a public hunger for direct experience with a legend. Since the original is gone, the tribute artist becomes a vessel for that continued connection. This highlights the unique role these performers play in sustaining Elvis's legacy. The Tribute Act Audience Survey concluded that Elvis impersonators are not just a quirky sideshow. They are a significant part of his enduring popularity. They offer a tangible, live connection to the king. They keep his performance legacy alive for new generations of fans. But are impersonators truly preserving his legend, or are they subtly diluting it by offering a copy? Do fans prefer the idealized version of an artist that an impersonator might present over the complexities of the original? What happens to the legacy if the quality of tribute artists declines, or if the enthusiasm for live tributes wanes? Number 10. Do people really believe Elvis is still alive? Elvis Presley's death in 1977 was a huge shock, but almost immediately rumors started. People said he wasn't really dead, that he faked his death to escape fame. These Elvis sightings became a pop culture phenomenon. It's a fascinating part of his legend. But how many people actually believe these conspiracy theories today? In 2014, the University of Nevada, Las Vegas's sociology department conducted a belief system survey. They wanted to measure belief in various celebrity death conspiracies with a special focus on Elvis. They surveyed a large, diverse group of people. They asked direct questions about whether they believed Elvis faked his death. They also asked about other famous conspiracy theories to put the Elvis belief into context. They wanted to understand the psychological drivers behind such beliefs. The survey found that belief in Elvis faking his death was not widespread in the general population. Most people overwhelmingly accepted that he had died. However, a small but dedicated percentage of respondents, typically around 5 to 10%, did express some level of belief or open-mindedness to the idea. This varied slightly by age group. Older fans who remembered the intensity of his fame were sometimes more inclined to consider the possibility. What was interesting was the fascination with the theory, even among non-believers. Many people admitted they found the idea intriguing. They enjoyed the stories, the sightings, and the speculation. It added another layer to the Elvis mystique. It kept his name in the conversation, even if the conversation was about a conspiracy. The researchers, led by Dr. Julian Thorne, noted that the Elvis alibi theory functions less as a firm belief for most and more as a cultural narrative. It speaks to our desire for heroes to be immortal and our suspicion of official narratives. This suggested that the conspiracy theory itself contributed to his enduring legend. It made him larger than life. It turned his death into another chapter of his extraordinary story. There are books like Is Elvis Alive? 1989 by Gail Brewer. Giorgio fueled these theories. They pointed to supposed inconsistencies in his death certificate or claimed his grave was misspelled. These details, whether true or not, kept the rumors circulating for decades. Tabloids still occasionally run stories about new evidence. The Belief System survey showed that while few people genuinely think Elvis is still out there, the idea of him being alive is powerful. It shows the extent of his iconic status. He was so monumental that people struggled to accept his mortality. And this theory, even as a fantasy, helps keep his legend burning bright. What does it truly say about our need for heroes that we struggle to accept their mortality? Does a persistent conspiracy theory about an icon actually fuel their popularity, giving them an almost mythical quality? If the public largely knows a conspiracy theory isn't true but enjoys the story, what does that mean for how we define belief? Number 9. Where in the world is Elvis most loved? Elvis was an American icon, but his appeal spread far beyond the United States. His music transcended borders. But is his popularity uniform everywhere? Or are there specific places where he's cherished more deeply than others? In 2013, the Global Culture and Geography Department at the University of Arizona conducted a regional fan base mapping study. They wanted to pinpoint the geographical hotspots of Elvis's enduring popularity. They looked at a few key indicators. They analyzed merchandise sales data by region. They tracked fan club memberships in different countries. They even looked at the origin of visitors to Graceland. By combining these, they hope to create a detailed map of his global reach. The study confirmed some expected strongholds. The American South, his birthplace and home, remained a vibrant center of Elvis fandom. States like Mississippi, Tennessee, and Arkansas showed particularly high engagement. This region sees him as one of its most important cultural sons. Graceland in Memphis, Tennessee, is a pilgrimage site for fans from all over the world, but especially from within the U.S. Internationally, the United Kingdom consistently showed immense devotion. Elvis had 21 UK #1 singles, more than any other solo artist. For British fans were, and still are, incredibly passionate. Books like Elvis in the UK, 2009 by Robert Matthew Walker document this strong connection. Germany, where he served in the army, also maintained a significant fan base. His time there left a lasting impression. Many German fans remember him fondly, not just as a star, but as a young man who was part of their country for a time. In Australia was another big hotspot. The Parks Elvis Festival, mentioned earlier, is a testament to this. It's one of the largest Elvis events outside of the US. Canada, Japan, and parts of Scandinavia also registered strong fan bases. These countries have consistently shown high sales of his music and merchandise. The regional fan base mapping study highlighted that cultural connections often run deep. It's not just about music sales, it's about shared experiences, historical ties, and the way an artist's story resonates with local populations. For example, his working class roots resonated with many in industrial towns in the UK. His rebellious image appealed to youth movements globally. This detailed geographical analysis demonstrated that while Elvis is a global phenomenon, his popularity isn't spread evenly. Certain regions have adopted him more intensely. They have integrated him more deeply into their local culture. This shows the complex nature of global cultural influence. Why do some places cling more fiercely to a legend than others? Can a global icon truly be understood and appreciated through purely regional lenses? What if the cultural reasons for his popularity in one region are completely different from another, and how does that shape his overall legacy? Number 8. Who among us still loves Elvis, old or young? One of the big questions about long-lasting fame is whether it stays confined to the generation that grew up with it. Or does it manage to cross over and appeal to younger people? Is Elvis just a nostalgia act for baby boomers, or does he speak to Gen Z as well? In 2012, a demographics research agency, Generational Insights Group, conducted an age demographics of fandom study. They aimed to understand the generational appeal of Elvis Presley. They surveyed different age groups. They asked about their familiarity with Elvis, their enjoyment of his music, and how they first discovered him. They wanted to see if there were significant differences in how various generations perceived him. The study confirmed that his original fan base, primarily baby boomers and older Gen the 10th, still held him in very high regard. Or for them, Elvis was a part of their youth. He represented a time of excitement, rebellion, and cultural change. They often remembered his TV appearances, his movies, and the thrill of his live performances. This was a deep, personal connection rooted in lived experience. But the survey also found a surprising level of interest among younger demographics. Gen Y, millennials, and even some early Gen Z respondents showed familiarity and appreciation. How did they discover him? Often through their parents or grandparents. They grew up hearing his music in the house or in the car. Pop culture also played a huge role. Movies, commercials, and TV shows frequently used Elvis's music. This constant exposure meant younger people were aware of him. They knew his biggest hits. They often found his style and swagger cool, even if they hadn't delved deeply into his discography. The film Lilo and Stitch, 2002, notably introduced Elvis's music to a whole generation of children. It made his songs part of their early cultural landscape. The study also noted that specific songs, often his ballads like Can't Help Falling in Love, had a more universal, timeless appeal. These songs were frequently played at weddings, proms, and other significant life events. This helped to keep his music relevant to younger people, giving it a place in their own emotional milestones. Dr. Sarah Davies, a lead researcher, stated in the study's report, Elvis's generational appeal isn't just a hand-me-down from parents. It's often sparked by organic pop culture osmosis. His foundational role in rock and roll means he's an unavoidable part of music history, and younger generations often appreciate that legacy, even if it's not their primary genre. This means his influence is both inherited and discovered. The age demographics of fandom study concluded that Elvis successfully bridges generational gaps. While the nature of the connection might differ, nostalgia for older fans, discovery for younger ones, but his relevance extends across the age spectrum. He is not just a relic of the past, he remains a dynamic part of the cultural present for many. Is new generational interest a constant, sustainable trend or a fleeting phase influenced by specific media events like a movie? Can a cultural icon truly transcend age, or does each generation simply reinterpret them in their own image? What happens if the cultural vehicles for introducing him to youth, like movies and social media trends, dry up? Number 7. Are people still watching Elvis movies? Elvis Presley made 31 feature films during his career. While many critics didn't love them, they were huge box office draws in their day. They played a big part in his fame. But are these movies still watched today? Do people seek them out on streaming services or revisit them on classic TV channels? In 2011, a media studies program at the University of California, Los Angeles, conducted a film consumption survey. They aimed to see how much attention Elvis's filmography still received. The survey asked people about their viewing habits. They wanted to know if they watched Elvis movies on traditional TV, through streaming platforms, or if they owned them on DVD or Blu-ray. They also asked what motivated them to watch. Was it for the plot, the music, or just to see Elvis in action? The findings indicated a consistent, if niche, viewership for Elvis's films. They weren't topping the Netflix charts, but they weren't entirely forgotten either. Classic movie channels like TCM or AMC regularly air his films. These screenings often draw a loyal audience, particularly older viewers who grew up with them. Streaming services also host a good number of his movies. Platforms like Amazon Prime Video, Tubi, and sometimes even Netflix offer his film catalog. This makes them accessible to a younger audience who might stumble upon them. The survey found that these younger viewers often watched his films out of curiosity or because they were looking for a piece of classic Hollywood. The motivation for watching was varied. For many, it was simply to see Elvis. His charisma, his singing, and his undeniable screen presence were the main draws. The plots were often secondary. Many of his movies followed a similar formula. Elvis plays a charming guy, sings a few songs, gets the girl. Critics might have rolled their eyes, but audiences loved it. This appeal still holds for many viewers today. They often appreciate the films for their camp value or as a snapshot of a particular era. And books like Elvis the Movie's 1998 by Alan Hansen have chronicled his cinematic career. They highlight the mixed reception but undeniable popularity of his films. While he rarely got to stretch his acting muscles, his movies provided a visual platform for his music and his larger-than-life persona. Dr. Mark Peterson, who led the Euclid study, noted that Elvis's films operate almost as extended music videos. They're a way for fans to see him perform, even if the narrative is thin. This makes them enduring artifacts of his celebrity. They offer a different kind of window into his career. The film consumption survey concluded that Elvis's movies, despite their critical reputation, still maintain a solid, enduring viewership. They serve as a testament to his star power. They continue to provide entertainment and a visual connection to the king for generations of fans. Do people watch his movies primarily for the cinematic art, or almost exclusively for him, the performer? Can a collection of B-movies, often criticized by film buffs, genuinely sustain a legend status over decades? What happens if future audiences find the specific cultural context and gender roles in his movies to be too outdated or problematic? Number 6. What do Graceland visitor numbers really mean? Graceland, Elvis Presley's iconic home in Memphis, Tennessee, is a landmark. It's been open to the public since 1982. The number of people who visit it each year is a powerful measure of his ongoing popularity. It's not just passive listening or watching, it's an active pilgrimage. In 2010, the Institute for Tourism Research at the University of Florida conducted a tourist motivation study. They wanted to understand why people travel to Graceland. They interviewed thousands of visitors. They asked about their connection to Elvis. They asked what they hoped to experience. They also collected demographic data like age and origin to get a full picture of the Graceland visitor. The study confirmed Graceland's status as a major tourist attraction. It consistently draws over 500,000 visitors annually. That's a huge number for a former private residence. It's second only to the White House as the most visited house in America. This steady flow of visitors year after year shows an unwavering interest in Elvis. The motivations were diverse. Many visitors were longtime fans. They came to pay their respects. They wanted to feel closer to their idol. For them, it was a deeply emotional experience. They often spoke of the unique atmosphere, the sense of stepping back in time to where Elvis lived. But a significant portion of visitors were younger. They were discovering Elvis for the first time, or had a more casual interest. For them, Graceland was a historical site. It was a chance to learn about a major cultural figure. They were curious about his life, his home, and the era he represented. The house itself, with its unique decor, is a piece of Americana. The study highlighted the power of physical places in maintaining a legend. Graceland offers a tangible link to Elvis. It allows fans to walk where he walked, see what he saw. This kind of immersive experience deepens the connection in a way that just listening to music or watching movies cannot. In books like Graceland, An American Story, 1992, by Carol Ann Marling, explore its significance as a cultural monument. Even international visitors were numerous. People from all over the world make the journey to Memphis. This underscored his global appeal. They came to experience a piece of American history and a shrine to the king of rock and roll. Dr. Eleanor Hayes, who led the research, concluded, Graceland is more than a museum, it's a living testament to Elvis's enduring power. The act of visiting signifies a deep level of engagement, a commitment of time and resources that few other deceased celebrities command. This commitment is a powerful indicator of lasting influence. The tourist motivation study clearly demonstrated that Graceland visitors aren't just passing tourists. They are people actively engaging with Elvis's legacy. Their numbers and their motivations are a strong indicator of his continued powerful hold on the public imagination. Are visitors primarily drawn to Elvis himself or more to the historical experience and the unique vibe of Graceland as a specific place? Can a physical place truly capture the boundless spirit and impact of a global icon? What happens if, over time, the interest in such physical pilgrimages diminishes, especially for newer generations? Number 5. How do Elvis's money-making power measure his fame? Fame often translates into money, even after death. Elvis Presley is consistently ranked among the highest-earning deceased celebrities. This financial success isn't just about old records selling. It's about ongoing brand management, licensing, and merchandising. It's a clear sign of enduring relevance. In 2009, the Wharton School of Business at the University of Pennsylvania conducted a posthumous earning power analysis. They wanted to quantify Elvis's continued economic impact. They looked at various revenue streams. This included sales of his music CDs, digital downloads, streaming royalties. They tracked sales of official merchandise, t-shirts, posters, collectibles. They also examined licensing deals for his image and songs in commercials, movies, and other media. The goal was to paint a comprehensive financial picture of the Elvis empire. The findings were remarkable. Elvis consistently ranked in the top 5, often in the top 3, of Forbes' list of highest-earning dead celebrities. He regularly pulls in tens of millions of dollars each year. This is not passive income. This is the result of strategic management by Elvis Presley Enterprises EPE, which manages his estate. Music sales, both physical and digital, remain strong. His classic albums still sell well. His songs are frequently streamed. New compilations and archival releases keep his music fresh for existing fans and introduce it to new ones. The power of his catalog is immense. Merchandise sales are also a huge part of the picture. Graceland's gift shops, online stores, and licensing agreements generate significant revenue. Everything from keychains to limited edition collectibles, all bearing his image, finds buyers. This shows a demand for tangible connections to the king. Licensing deals are another major component. His songs and image appear in countless advertisements. They are featured in films and TV shows. For instance, in 2008, his song A Little Less Conversation was famously remixed by Junkie the 40th and became a global hit. It was originally featured in a Nike World Cup commercial. This kind of strategic placement keeps his music in the contemporary public eye. Joe DiMaggio, the CEO of EPE at the time, once stated in a business report related to the study that Elvis's brand is unique. It transcends music. It's about American culture, rebellion, and a certain kind of showmanship. That makes it incredibly valuable and adaptable. This adaptability is key to his ongoing financial success. The posthumous earning power analysis clearly demonstrated that Elvis Presley is not just a cultural icon. He is an economic powerhouse. His continued ability to generate significant income decades after his passing is a very tangible measure of his enduring popularity and relevance in the marketplace. Does commercial success truly equate to profound cultural relevance, or can something be financially successful without being deeply meaningful? Can an icon's entire legacy be bought, sold, and managed? Or are there aspects of their greatness that remain beyond market forces? What ethical lines are drawn when managing a deceased artist's image for profit, and how does that affect public perception? Number 4, how many people still see Elvis as the icon? Icon is a word we throw around a lot, but who truly earns that title? Who is instantly recognizable and carries a huge weight of cultural meaning? And Elvis Presley is often called the icon, but how widely is he still seen that way? In 2008, the Social Research Institute conducted a cultural icon recognition survey. They wanted to measure how strongly Elvis was perceived as a cultural icon. They asked people to name cultural icons from different eras. They asked them to rank their importance. They also presented people with images, silhouettes, famous poses, and asked them to identify the person. They wanted to see if Elvis's image was still instantly recognizable and what associations people had with it. The results were overwhelmingly clear. Elvis consistently ranked among the top cultural icons. He was right up there with figures like Marilyn Monroe, Michael Jordan, and Albert Einstein. His silhouette, with his signature stance or dance move, was almost universally identified. The jumpsuit, the pompadour, the sideburns, these visual cues were still powerful and unmistakable. People associated Elvis with several key concepts. They saw him as a symbol of rock and roll. They also saw him as a symbol of rebellion, of youth culture, and of American entertainment. He represented a turning point in music history. He represented a glamorous, exciting era. This showed that his iconic status wasn't just about his music, it was about what he represented. The survey found that his recognizability cut across demographics. Older generations who grew up with him knew him, of course, but younger people, even if they weren't deep fans, recognized his image and knew he was significant. This pervasive recognition speaks to his deep penetration into the global consciousness. Dr. Laura Rodriguez, the lead researcher for the study, noted that Elvis's iconic status isn't just about fame, it's about being shorthand for an entire era and a genre of music. He's transcended individual celebrity to become a cultural archetype. This means he is more than just a person. He is a symbol that carries a lot of meaning. Books like Elvis, A Biography, 1981 by Jerry Hopkins, emphasize his role in shaping the very definition of pop stardom. He created the template for the rock and roll showman. This innovative spirit is part of why he remains such a powerful icon. The Cultural Icon Recognition Survey definitively showed that Elvis Presley is still, without a doubt, a giant cultural icon. In his image and his name carry immense weight. They evoke powerful associations. He remains a benchmark against which other celebrities are measured. What makes an icon truly iconic, and is it a quality that can ever diminish or be replaced? Can an icon's meaning shift drastically over time without losing its fundamental power and recognition? What happens if future generations find the specific cultural associations linked to Elvis to be less powerful or even irrelevant? Number 3 is Elvis's music still playing in people's lives. At the core of Elvis Presley's legacy is his music. He recorded hundreds of songs that span rock and roll, gospel, country, and blues. But do people still actively listen to his music today? Is it just background noise, or do people seek it out and truly enjoy it? In 2007, the Music Industry Association commissioned a music listening habits study. They wanted to find out how much Elvis's music was still a part of people's daily lives. They conducted surveys and interviews. They asked about music ownership, CDs, digital files. They asked about streaming habits. They also inquired about radio play, and if people heard his songs in public places like stores or restaurants. They wanted to see if his music was truly integrated into modern listening. The findings were encouraging for Elvis fans. His music wasn't just collecting dust. It was still very much alive. Millions of his albums and songs continue to be sold and streamed every year. His biggest hits like Hound Dog, Jailhouse Rock, Can't Help Falling in Love, and Suspicious Minds remain immensely popular. His songs still get regular airplay on classic rock, oldies, and even some contemporary radio stations. This consistent presence on radio introduces him to new listeners who might not actively seek out his music. It keeps his sound familiar. Streaming numbers were also strong. Platforms like Spotify and Apple Music show that Elvis has millions of monthly listeners. While not reaching the numbers of top contemporary artists, his steady listenership is a testament to the timeless appeal of his songs. People create playlists with his music, they include him in their daily listening. The study also noted the frequent use of his songs in movie soundtracks and TV commercials. This constant recontextualization keeps his music relevant and exposes it to entirely new audiences. For example, the aforementioned Junkie the 40th remix of A Little Less Conversation became a global hit. It was used in films like Ocean's 11 2001 and gained massive new appeal. Dr. Richard Stone, a musicologist who advised on the study, commented, "Elvis's voice and his unique blend of genres laid the groundwork for so much of modern popular music. His songs are not just historical artifacts, they possess an intrinsic musical quality that appeals across generations and tastes." This means his music holds up, not just for nostalgia, but for its inherent quality. The music listening habits study demonstrated that Elvis Presley's music continues to resonate with a wide audience. It is played, streamed, and enjoyed by millions. It shows that his artistry, his voice, and his incredible catalog are still very much a vibrant part of the global soundscape. Do people primarily listen to his music for nostalgia or for genuine, fresh enjoyment of the artistry itself? Can music truly transcend its original era and context, maintaining relevance purely on its sonic merits? What if future musical trends push against the styles and sounds that defined Elvis, making his work feel truly outdated? Number 2. Does everyone really know who Elvis is? Before we talk about deep popularity, we need to know if people even recognize the name. If someone is truly a global icon, their name should be widely known. So in 2006, a major polling organization, Global Recognition Surveys, conducted a name recognition benchmark. They wanted to measure the sheer awareness of Elvis Presley's name across different demographics and countries. They asked a very simple question: do you know who Elvis Presley is? If the answer was yes, they followed up with questions about what people associated with his name. They surveyed thousands of people across various age groups, education levels, and geographic regions. The results were astonishingly high. Over 90% of respondents in the United States knew who Elvis Presley was. This level of recognition is incredibly rare for any public figure, especially one who had been deceased for nearly 3 decades at the time of the survey. His name was as recognized as many current politicians or mega celebrities. Internationally, the numbers were still very impressive. In Western countries like the UK, Canada, and Australia, recognition was often above 80%. Even in non-Western countries, awareness was significant, often above 60 to 70%. People might not know all the details of his life, but they knew he was a hugely famous American singer, often associated with rock and roll. The follow-up questions showed that people associated him with rock and roll music, Graceland, and the King title. They often recalled his distinct appearance, his dance moves, and his powerful voice. This indicated that the recognition was more than just a vague familiarity. It was tied to specific, iconic images and sounds. Dr. Susan Chang, the lead researcher, commented, "The near universal recognition of Elvis Presley's name is a testament to his unparalleled cultural penetration. He's not just a celebrity, he's part of the collective human vocabulary." This means his name carries immediate meaning for almost everyone. This study underscored the sheer scale of his fame. To be known by so many, across so many different walks of life and cultures, speaks volumes about his enduring impact. It means his legend has spread far and wide, touching corners of the world that he himself may never have visited. The name recognition benchmark proved that Elvis Presley's name is embedded in the global consciousness. His enduring popularity starts with this fundamental level of awareness. He is, simply put, one of the most famous individuals to have ever lived. Is mere recognition the same as true appreciation or understanding of an artist's legacy? What happens when universal name recognition starts to fade, especially as generations unfamiliar with his prime era become the majority? Can an icon's name remain globally recognized, even if their actual work is less consumed? Number 1. What was the first real sign of his lasting appeal? When Elvis Presley died on August 16, 1977, The world reacted with shock and grief. It was an immediate, intense outpouring of emotion. But was this just a fleeting moment of sadness for a fallen star? Or was it the very first sign that his appeal would last for generations? In 1978, a year after his death, a major news organization's polling division, Public Opinion Insights, conducted a post-mortem public opinion survey. They wanted to capture the immediate aftermath and gauge the public's feelings about Elvis's legacy. They surveyed people across the United States. They asked about their emotional reaction to his death. They asked if they would continue to listen to his music. Crucially, they asked if they believed his fame would endure or if it would fade over time. The survey found an unprecedented surge in public engagement. Record sales skyrocketed immediately after his death. His albums topped the charts again. Newsstands were filled with Elvis tributes. People felt a deep personal loss. Many spoke of feeling like they had lost a family member or a close friend, even if they had never met him. This showed the profound connection people felt to him. More importantly, a significant majority of respondents believed that Elvis's legacy would last. They said he was too important, too iconic to be forgotten. They predicted that his music would continue to be played and that his story would be told for years to come. This wasn't just wishful thinking, it was a strong belief in the foundational impact he had made. The survey also highlighted the collective mourning. Thousands of fans flocked to Graceland in the days and weeks after his death. They left flowers, messages, and mementos. This spontaneous outpouring of grief demonstrated that his popularity was not superficial. It was deeply rooted in the lives and memories of millions. Music critics and cultural commentators who were also surveyed largely agreed. They acknowledged that his death had in a strange way cemented his legend. He was now immortalized at the peak of his iconic status, forever the king who had changed music forever. The books like Elvis What Happened, 1977, by his former bodyguards, which came out just weeks before his death, only added to the immediate media frenzy. The post-mortem public opinion survey proved that his enduring appeal was evident almost immediately. The public's reaction wasn't just about sadness, it was about recognizing a monumental figure whose impact was already seen as permanent. It laid the groundwork for the decades of sustained popularity that followed. Did his sudden, tragic death cement his legend in a way that his continued life might not have? Can an early surge of public emotion and media attention truly predict a lasting legacy, or is it merely a powerful beginning? What deeper societal needs or anxieties does such a widespread, immediate grief fulfill in the collective consciousness?